What makes a photo great? Which are the qualities that we attribute to a good photo? Is it the composition, leading lines, contrast, thirds, all of the rules that make an image a great image? However, we're going to talk about a person that didn't use any of these rules as her main interest. I present you to the great, the legendary Diane. She was born in New York, 1923, to a wealthy Jewish family. She wasn't affected by the Great Depression, as her father owned a department store named Russek's. This event will have a great impact in Diane's life. She would seek exactly the opposite of feeling safe during the rest of her life. She got married by the early age of 18 to Alan Narvas. Her husband introduced her to photography. He gifted Diane her first camera, a Graflex. It is also known that Alan and Diane went multiple times to MoMA art galleries after they met at the age of 14. She started doing fashion photography and worked for magazines like Harper's Bazaar and Esquire. She worked with her husband for a few years until she decided to continue her own path. She started publishing her work in 1955. That's when she got a scholarship to study at the School for Social Research. Here's where I want to stop for a second. Please look at Diane's work. It is pure emotion that surrounds these photos. Something that keeps me so captivated by Diane's work is that she manages to express different feelings through her photography. She would then stick to unhappy emotions. She would meet Lisette Model at the School of Social Research. It is said that Model taught her how to always be unique at all costs and how to observe and be present in the environment around her. Model would recognize Diane as one of her best students, if not the best. We can see from her teacher's work that she really got inspired from her and probably based some of her work and continue with her legacy. In a documentary I watched, Model said, Diane wanted people to look directly into the camera, and by doing so, one would have meant believe that it would freeze the picture. But it was just the opposite. Her influence upon these people and their reaction to her made the picture spontaneous. And as if it was not posed. And that was a great contribution. This is Diane's work after 1957. Her objective was to capture emotions. Again, she got stuck in a very somber aspect of emotion. We tend to reveal something about ourselves when we take a photo. Diane was dealing with emotional problems. Depression was something that stayed by her side her whole life. In a letter that she wrote to a friend, she said that something was draining out of her. Like, she could tell it was something chemical, something happening in her brain. But it was an energy draining from her. It also didn't help that her husband, the man she knew for years and built a family with, cheated on her, leading to the tedious process of divorce, affecting more and more her mental state. The photographs she took during the next years revealed something of that. Diane's photographs are about accepting members, often marginalized by society, in the most private, vulnerable states. It is about revealing their lives without passing judgment, showing their characters as they were in their natural habitat. As I dig deeper into Diane's work, I started to have the same feeling with all her photos. I realized that Diane did this on purpose. Her whole work is supposed to make you feel this way, uncomfortable, odd. She would continue her work until she took her own life in 1971. Diane was the first photographer ever to be included as an exhibiting artist. This was a significant event in photography history because it marked the point at which photography was properly recognized globally as a legitimate form of art. A photograph is a secret about a secret. The more it tells you, the less you know. This is an Narvas quote I really like. Adversity is that imbalance that accentuates the character and creates another side of our personality. It makes us emphasize a certain trait or want, to be free and accepted, to be at peace with ourselves, to be seen as who we really are. I really liked these two pictures. This was a publication by Esquire magazine. I think this pretty much describes the whole Diane Narvas deal. She always wanted to base her work in the margins of society. She was born to a wealthy Jewish family, and she wasn't affected by Great Depression. And this is the reason why she would always look for this way of experiencing these bad things of life, and at the same time acknowledging that there's exists another contrast to that. Diane had a troubled mind. There is a book by William Todd Schultz that talk about it. He says that pictures are her internal world externalized. Schultz described Arvis to clutch to her subjects and therapists to defend herself from separation and loss. This stopped working once Arvis started working with mentally divergent people. Schultz says that she was left with a lonely, empty feeling. She was thrown back to the only thing that reminded herself. He even got contact with Diane's therapist and got her to reveal what happened in the sessions. To sum it up, Diane will always want to talk about how she was searching for experience, and most of it, the experience of feeling bad. Even though she had a tragic end, Diane's work inspired a lot of new artists in the new coming eras. People like Nan Golding, Gillian Waring, Cindy Sherman, and Robin Mapplethorpe were deeply influenced by her work. Even me, I can say that I was influenced by Diane's work. I went outside of the streets looking for someone to take a photograph of, and I found this interesting woman. Her name is Lily. I finally took this portrait, and I can dare to say that it took quite some time to get to the final result. It is the right photo. Just because I had to talk to her, and as Diane said, she worked with the people she photographed, and she was interested in people's life, and meaning that like I had to have a conversation with her, and it was pleasant. I really enjoyed having a conversation with her, and I think that's a moment that's gonna stay with me my whole life, even though we just met for a couple minutes. When I went back to my old archives, I found these pictures, and I realized I always wanted to get that from people, and I think I'm directed into that path of finding something, getting some emotion in the photos I take, and I think that's what I enjoyed about portrait, because you can really take a photo of someone, but it's hard to get that essence, that way of being, and to transmit that with a photo is really hard, and it took me quite a lot of time to get here. But now I can relate to Diane's work and what she did and how she like worked with people and managed to get all through those stories. It might be so tiring to know so much people and have all that information in your head. I don't know if I'm biased, but I think I was influenced by every person I've ever shot, and Diane wasn't shooting. mm, I don't know how to say, but wasn't shooting people that were gonna add up something to her life. And at the end of the day, that was the thing that she got the most, and negative emotions that she wanted to capture. I think that influenced a lot of to what happened to her, and probably I will try not to keep that path. But I certainly admire how she just went outside and uh, get the photos, and it just wasn't photos. It was a really interesting portrait and a really interesting thing of weighing and seeing people. That's what I admire of her, how she got all of these emotions and all of these interesting people to pose for her, and she actually actively participated in their lives. That's what I admire of her.